Breaking news at 6 a.m. Air Tracker 7 is over a large apartment fire in Boulder. This is right at the corner of the diagonal highway and 28th Street.
Yeah, hard to see much with all the smoke, but that gives you an idea of how big this fire is. You can see a number of ladder trucks are fully extended trying to fight the fire from above. A huge emergency response again in Boulder. We have a crew on the way there. We will check back in with them and view from Air Tracker 7 here throughout this newscast. Certainly a scary scene, and we know a lot of people are probably out of their homes at this hour.
Yeah.
It is Friday. Good morning to you. I'm Brian Sanders.
And I'm Nicole Brady. Winds are light right now, much lighter than earlier this week, so that's good news for the emergency responders. The rest of the day, the weather is expected to be pretty beautiful, Katie.
Yes, good morning to you guys. Winds, fortunately, for those firefighting efforts in Boulder are relatively calm right now. We're under a partly cloudy sky from there up through Johnstown. Clear skies over downtown Denver and south. Temperatures outside this morning were in the 30s from downtown out to the airport, where winds are sustained from the northeast at 8 miles per hour. Temperatures elsewhere were in the high 30s, Fort Collins and Greeley, so a pretty mild morning, and into the mountains 20s and 30s, not quite as chilly as what we saw over the past couple of days this time. And then over the eastern plains from Burlington down through Lamar, mid to upper 30s. The gustiest winds right now over Colorado are over the far northeastern plains, but last recorded wind gust near Burlington just around 15 miles per hour. So your wake up forecast, it'll feel pretty nice outside, very pleasant temperatures. By 11 o'clock we'll hit 50 degrees in Denver, mid 50s by 1, and daytime highs expected to reach the low to mid 60s from downtown up through Erie and Parker. Tomorrow even warmer, but the winds will kick up into the afternoon. 76 expected in Denver on Saturday.
And let's go back up to the Boulder area right now. Let me take you on the map up that way, where the fire is still causing an issue, obviously, in the neighborhood. Now, as we take a look at the camera there at 28th and Iris, and where the diagonal all comes together, you're not seeing any traffic related issues. So this would be looking to the south right now along 28th, and I'm not seeing any traffic related issues on these major roads. It's really confined to the apartment complex over there. Take a look at the drive that we have overall across Highway 36. Looks okay. We still have that section of 287 for the railroad work still closed down. We still have some restrictions here on 58th Avenue between Franklin and York Street. That for a water main break. So Franklin over to Race gets you over to Brighton Road. The rest of the drive looks just fine. No other big issues yet around town.
We'll get back to Boulder here shortly. Meanwhile, some breaking news across the world. President Biden is about to arrive in Poland. It is the next stop in his European trip, hoping to de-escalate Russia's invasion of Ukraine and also help in the humanitarian crisis.
Poland has taken in over 2 million Ukrainian refugees. President Biden is meeting with the Polish president and with soldiers from Fort Bragg who have been helping at the border. President Biden left Brussels around 5 this morning. Before leaving, he met with the European Commission president. They announced a plan to reduce the EU's dependence on Russian energy.
Today, we've agreed on a joint game plan toward that goal, while accelerating our progress toward a secure, clean energy future.
The U.S. agreed to supply the EU with more natural gas, and President Biden said the White House is also looking to send chemical detection systems to Ukraine because officials worry Putin will use chemical weapons. Overnight, Russia now claims it is making progress toward capturing the coastal city of Mariupol. And new overnight, the city is now estimating 300 people were killed in that airstrike last week on a theater that was being used as a bomb shelter. You may remember the Russian word for children was painted in huge letters on the side of that theater, but the Russian troops attacked it anyway.
No mistaking it. So as the president heads to Poland today, First Lady Dr. Jill Biden is coming to Colorado. She'll be here for a Democratic fundraiser and a White House event. She'll also be the guest speaker at the Latin American Educational Foundation Gala. I had a chance to talk to the foundation's executive director, Jim Chavez, about how they help Latinx students before, during, and after college.
I know that every parent wants their kids to have more education than less, but they need to understand why and how to access college and what's the real value of it and what are the right classes to take when you're a 5th grader or a 7th grader or a 9th grader, how to prepare yourself early on so that when the time does come that you're prepared not only a little bit more financially, academically, and just the family has an idea of how they're going to actually make that happen.
It's great work that they do. Also very cool, he told me that as executive director, he could be the one to introduce the First Lady tomorrow night Instead, he's going to let one of their students have that honor. Such a memorable moment for that student. Tomorrow's fundraiser will help provide future scholarships. You can learn more about the foundation's work on the website laef.org.
The attorney for Aurora Police Chief Vanessa Wilson tells Denver 7 the chief has no plans to retire or resign, but that city manager Jim Twombly has asked her for an exit strategy. High-ranking sources told our investigative team that city leaders are forcing Wilson out. Now, so far, city leaders are not confirming or denying our report, but her attorney tells Denver 7 investigator Jennifer Kovaleski that Wilson and the city manager recently met virtually, and that's when an exit strategy was brought up.
It's fair to say the city manager is trying to force her out.
Well, I think it's several people, but certainly when you ask somebody for an exit strategy, it does appear that there's a big problem.
We're told Chief Wilson is out of the country on vacation right now. Her attorney believes the discussion for an exit strategy right before she left was calculated. Ultimately, Aurora's city manager gets the final say on whether the chief stays or goes.
Well, if you're headed to the airport or to the east side of town and want to take the train, leave some extra time. RTD had to cancel runs of the A-Line train once again today. We've seen cancellations several times this week. The agency is blaming it on staffing issues. We sent Denver 7's Veronica Acosta to get some answers because a lot of passengers are frustrated by the extra wait, but RTD says it won't be an easy fix.
And hey, it is arguably one of the most important and one of the most used lines, right? On average, nearly 13,000 people get on one of these A-Line trips, and that's on a weekday basis. So yesterday you mentioned that there were 8 cancellations of these A-Line trips, and today RTD saying another 8 trips are canceled, all of those going to and from Union Station, all 8 of those. So if you're wondering, those rides, they typically run every 15 minutes. Yesterday and this morning, instead, they're running every half an hour. Instead, that's because those are commuter lines. They require 2 crew members. If for some reason one of those crew members can't make it on, whether they call out sick or they're just running late, then that line cannot run. RTD officials told us they try to switch staff around where they can, but of course that gets very difficult.
We do everything we can to fill that vacancy with a second crew member, but sometimes we just can't do that. If somebody calls in or can't make their shift, it has a ripple effect because then we have to try and fill that spot. And if we can't, then that's when we have to drop the trip.
So one of the big questions we had was why not switch a crew member from the N line or the G line over to an A line trip so that you're able to get those folks over to DIA or to Union Station. Well, here's the thing. RTD says that those 2 crew member commuter rails, they require that armed security guard, and some of those other lines like the N and the G, they just don't have that. So that's why that can't happen. We also asked RTD if at any point they plan to scrub the every 15-minute ride and make it an every 30-minute ride instead. They said they don't plan on doing that. They're just trying to do their best and get as many staff on board. We're in Denver this morning. I'm Veronica Acosta, Denver 7.
All right, thank you, Veronica. Yeah, it comes at a bad time. A lot of people would be using the A-Line at this time. DIA sees a spike in spring break travel, especially on Fridays. The TSA says Sunday was the 2nd busiest day since the pandemic started. Last Friday was the 3rd busiest. Labor Day last year was actually the busiest since the pandemic, but airport traffic is still down about 15% from the pre-pandemic record.
And if you plan to travel anywhere this summer, you may want to book your ticket now. The travel app Hopper predicts domestic flights will increase by 7% each month until June. The price hike is due to rising jet fuel costs and more people wanting to travel. Katie.
Good morning. Happy Friday to you. Sunrise today is at 6:54. We'll stay in the low 40s through 9 o'clock. So a nice cool morning out there. And daytime highs expected to reach the 60s. Warmer for the weekend. Your forecast coming up.
Yeah, and speaking of travel, we have DPS kids on spring break after classes today. So we'll be busy at DIA. Down here on C470 at Platte Canyon, that looks okay. There's a new crash down here on the south side along Platte Canyon at Mineral. So that's going to slow you down just a little bit. But otherwise, a quiet drive on most of the freeways. We'll take a look again up at Boulder coming up in just a few minutes.
Repairs are underway at Empower Field after a section of seats went up in flames.
Crews are still trying to figure out what caused it ahead of some big events there. Plus,
some of these, it may be there are only 1 or 2 of these in collections in the world.
we'll introduce you to the Colorado man who's setting records with his passion for peculiar plants.